We're looking today with this announcement very much at the supply side, if you forgive the term in economics, the young people. You've also got to look at the demand side, the companies and the employers, and make sure that both are pulling in the same direction.
This is the conversation around Neets. It is a huge problem in the UK. We've got one of the highest rates of Neets in Europe. Neets, of course, is those who aren't in training, employment, education. And if the current trend persists, we currently have over 1 million people between the ages of 16 to 24 in the UK who are not in employment or education or training. And if that trend continues to persist, that could rise to 1.25 million, which is a huge people. That's 1 in about 6 young people. Now, the government is announcing plans this morning to tackle this with more technical education and also at a younger age. But the question, of course, is how many people will get behind this? Will employers be the people to get behind it as well? And I'm joined now by James Reid, who's the chief executive of the Reid Group, which is, of course, a major employer in the UK, and joins us in the studio now. A very good morning to you, James.
Good morning, Salma.
Thank you for coming in. Can I just get your first initial thoughts to this plan by Andy Burnham and what you think?
Well, the headline is it's very welcome. I think it's a smart move. I'm really pleased that this has come so early in his premiership, really. In the first 10 days, they're addressing this issue. So I think that's good. I mean, there's a lot of work to be done behind this, but I think to have it high on the agenda, if not top of the agenda, is really good.
One of the biggest questions that this poses is, will employers take it on board? Because, of course, you need employers to be willing to take these young people, to train them or to take them through their businesses. Do you think there's an appetite for that?
Yes, I do, because we have a strange situation. You just mentioned that there are 1 million young people who are not in education or employment or training, but we also have skills shortages. So, we're trying to build 1 million houses in this country, and we can't find the construction workers to do that. So that's a very weird mismatch that suggests that the sort of education and business worlds have been very misaligned for a long time. So I think this is important for the future of the young people that will have these new opportunities. It's also important for the future of our economy, because they need to be much more closely aligned.
It's really interesting, actually, because there has been this prevailing attitude that university is the only way to go to achieve any kind of success and merit. And perhaps I wonder, there is a snobbery. Calum and I were talking about this earlier. There is a snobbery here that if you don't go to university, you've somehow failed, or you somehow are not as clever academically or not as intelligent. Do you think this proposal from the government is a kind of the beginning of changing that attitude, or do you see that attitude already beginning to change?
Both. That attitude is very entrenched, and it is very problematic. It sort of is very based in a class society, and I think it's really wrong. And it's also now, it's not very clever, because so many jobs that typically were done by university graduates are disappearing through new technologies and the emergence of AI. So I like the headline, the hard hat will be as valuable as the university cap. I think that encapsulates, forgive the pun, what we're trying to do here. And I think that's really good. And the other thing I'd stress, though, is AI seems to be replacing a lot of jobs pretty quickly, but the jobs it is not replacing, and I thought this was well put by someone I was speaking to the other day, are jobs that involve you washing your hands at the end of your working day.
Right.
So the jobs that involve you washing your hands at the end of the working day will continue, and there'll be lots of opportunities in those spaces. And if you start thinking about what those jobs are or may be, there's many of them technical or vocational types of jobs, and they're great jobs, and that's what people should be preparing for.
Yes, I mean, I still need the plumber to come and fit the new boiler. AI can't put a physical new boiler into my house as of yet.
No, and you're not
today.
alone in that. And plumbers are in short supply. So,
Yes.
if you want to become a plumber, you're going to earn a lot of money. 75,000 plus in London at the moment, I believe.
Oh, listen, I tell everyone who's younger than me that that's where the money is. It's no longer in the office jobs, but rather in those skills shortages that we have. But I do wonder, do you have any insights, James, in terms of the attitudes of young people when they look at those more hands-on jobs, the jobs that you just said that you wash your hands at the end of the day for? Is there an appetite in a world that is really glamorizing online work and digital businesses and entrepreneurship and perhaps content creators, which is a massive part of the economy, and making a living online in that way? Is there an appetite or a willingness perhaps for young people to go into those jobs? And is there perhaps a snobbery there that's also happening on the other side?
Well, I don't want to get my hands dirty sort of
Exactly,
attitude.
like I don't want to do those jobs.
Well, possibly. I mean, I suppose if you want to be an influencer on Instagram or something, that's not going to be in that.
I have followed a plumbing influencer before.
Yeah, there are plumbing influencers. and, you know, I think the good thing about what's being proposed by Andy Burnham is it starts at school when you're sort of 14 years old, and it gives you visibility of other options apart from maybe just doing GCSEs. And if you don't particularly like schoolwork, and I meet masses of business people all the time, many of whom did not do well at school but have been very successful afterwards as entrepreneurs, who these young people would be able to think maybe this is for me, and not be demoralised and not be sort of knocked back. And I think that's so important that young people are encouraged. Yeah. And that they see that there are many routes forward. What I like about this is it's giving people more pathways into the future. And that must be a good thing.
James, give us a little bit of insight from the business world. What do you think needs to happen from businesses to make this a success and to work in tandem with the government?
Well, I think it's really important that the whole landscape is properly evaluated, because you can't just prepare young people for the workplace if there aren't many jobs, for instance. Well, you can, but they're going to be disappointed. So at the moment we have, as you mentioned, 1 million young people who are not in education, employment, or training. There are only 713,000 vacancies in our economy, and there are 2.5 people who are unemployed for every vacancy at the moment. So we have to get the economy going. So we can't have, on one hand, one part of the government saying we're going to train young people to do more technical things, and then on the other hand have a treasury that taxes jobs more and more, because that stops employers from hiring people. So we've got to try and reduce the cost of hiring people as much as possible, so that more employers will step forward and create vacancies and invite people to come and work for them. And those are big companies and small companies. And at the moment, a lot of employers are under pressure. So this apprenticeship levy that's spoken about so much has been a real problem for employers, because effectively it's been a tax on their payroll for the larger employer of 0.5%. But you can't very easily get the money back to train people because it's so complicated. That needs to be opened up. And there's this new growth and skills levy that's going to be replacing the apprenticeship levy. That could be opened up for these young people who are leaving school and used to help them learn skills on the job once they've left school, to the benefit of them and their employers. So there needs to be some creative thinking around reducing costs for employers and helping create a better match between the needs of the employer and the skills of the young people.
James, you said the headline is that this is a good thing, but Neets is not a new conversation. We've been having it for some years now. Do you have more faith in this iteration of it, or do you wonder if, perhaps, not to sound pessimistic, but we might just arrive at the same place?
Well, it has been a conversation for some time, but there were marked improvements made after the last time it was sort of really focused on, which was sort of after the financial crisis. So I think this is an important conversation. I welcome the fact that Alan Milburn is doing this review, and that the new government, or the new Prime Minister, is continuing to work with Mr. Milburn to ensure that that review is completed, and I hope followed through. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's also interesting that Andy Burnham's Chief of Staff is James Purnell, who used to be the Secretary of State for Department of Work and Pensions. So, and he also retained Pat McFadden as Secretary of State for Work and Pensions. So there's a good team on this, I think, with a lot of experience. So I hope that they really have the opportunity to follow through and deliver, because that's what we really need. A lot of talk has happened, you're right, and not enough delivery.
Well, one of the parties in this that will be a little bit apprehensive are the universities. They're already facing such huge funding costs. They're already struggling. And there is perhaps maybe some concern that it could lead to a drop in academic standards.
Well, I don't see why it need to. I mean, it's creating a route for people who don't want to go to university. So the people who do want to go to university, I hope will get a good service from the universities. It's a bigger question, but perhaps there's overcapacity in university. And perhaps universities need to focus themselves on adding more vocational elements to the degrees that they teach. Because, you know, so many people are leaving university now and finding themselves disappointed because they can't get jobs that they feel they're qualified for. And maybe they're not actually qualified for.
Right. Just finally, if there's a thing that you would advise the new Prime Minister to focus on when it comes to this, what would it be?
Look at this holistically. Look at the whole economy. So, we're looking today with this announcement very much at the supply side, if you forgive the term in economics, the young people. You've also got to look at the demand side, the companies and the employers, and make sure that both are pulling in the same direction.
James Reed, thank you so much for your insights. I really appreciate your time this morning.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
Great conversation, that, to set up the announcement from Andy Burnham and to consider how this can work. So schools and employers and mayors in local areas are to identify the industries in those areas whereby these 14-year-olds should be kind of nudged in the direction of, here is what work looks like. Here is, as James was saying, a visibility of other options that are available to you as well as university. Can everyone pull in the same direction to make this work? And I think to save that kind of next generation of potential NEETs at this, those kids who are in school now, can this help them? Joe gets in touch to say, my son's just graduated with a 2-1 in economics and philosophy. He wants to live in London, so to pay rent, he's working on a building site and cycling to work. He is very happy, enjoying work and also applying for grad jobs. He has no idea when he may get an interview, let alone an offer. Needs must. Not all graduates sit around waiting for the right job.
Needs and needs must. Yes, indeed.